Hello and welcome back to the ADHD Entrepreneur Podcast. It's been a busy week and there's been lots going on. This week I have I think it's been very productive, but I have run into a few issues that I would like to talk about. So a bit of time blindness, a bit of prioritization needing to happen, and also feeling a bit of anxiety and fear. So I'll get into where some of those things popped up. So last week, at the end of last week's episode, I was talking about how moving forward, I had written some 5-day SOPs. So what I was going to do over what specific jobs I was going to do on each of the 5 days of the week. And that made me feel positive about being organized. However, I then, as I was shooting the podcasts, that was on the Friday, I then had to edit the podcasts and put those out, put those on the different channels, etc. And I realized that I hadn't really taken into account how long it would take to edit the podcasts and put them out. Really looking back at those 5-day SOPs for what I would say the work involved in those was the project work for the KDP, Amazon KDP, and the print on demand stuff. So it didn't really include anywhere in that week time to do the podcast editing. That's why I mentioned time blindness. I think, obviously time blindness can be turning up late for stuff and things like that. But also I think in this case, it seems like I get very excited and enthusiastic about doing stuff and just assume that I'll be able to do it whilst doing the other things as well. So not really taking into account that if I want to do an extra thing, it means I'm going to not be able to do something else. So that is something I need to take a little bit of note of and think a little bit more about. When it comes to the prioritization, when I got to Monday of this week, I had said to myself that I was just going to focus on finishing off where I'd got to on the Amazon KDP. So I had 4 book titles that I had produced and they were just sitting there, not being marketed. So I wanted to make sure that they had at least had some ads and some social media promotion in the run up to Christmas. There's not long left now before Christmas. I just wanted to make sure that I at least had some ads present on there before Christmas came along. So that was going to be my main focus. But with everything that I said about editing the podcast, it had got into my mind that now that the podcast is live and there's some episodes going out, obviously I need a website for the podcast, because if I want to, promote that on social media as well, maybe there needs to be a website that people can link to. So all these things were swirling around my head. And then all of a sudden, me prioritizing Amazon KDP marketing wasn't the shiny object anymore. It was about doing the websites. I ended up spending most of Monday spinning up a quick website for the podcast. It's still not live on the domain. That is a prime example of shiny object syndrome, and just moving on to something exciting that seems more exciting at the time. So those were some of the issues that I ran into. Also, by the time I got to Wednesday, I had put doing the website for the podcast idea to bed and said, no, I need to get this P marketing done. On the Wednesday morning, I found it very difficult to focus on what I needed to do. And I had a little think about why that might have been. And I think when it comes to doing work for yourself, as opposed to doing client work, it's very easy to detach your emotions from client work. You don't have any sort of skin in the game in terms of when you're doing work for clients, it's their brand, it's their personality in that. So I think where I was perhaps struggling to focus on Wednesday was just a little bit of anxiety about self promoting the work that I'd been doing. But anyway, I was able to focus by the afternoon. I went to the gym, got some dopamine running around my system, and I was able to push through and get a lot of the KDP marketing tasks done. So that included what's called A plus content on Amazon KDP. That's where you are able to add just a bit more information about the product, a few more images, and things like that, so that the KDP books start to look a bit more your regular products on Amazon. So they're like comparison table and things like that. So I was very keen to get that done so that my books on there looked a lot more professional, because obviously they're not really been marketed to anybody, so they've not been purchased yet. So there's no reviews. So if I can make them look as professional as possible, then that was good. And then once I'd done that, I then felt able that I could move on to spending some money and putting some Amazon ads on there. So yesterday, Thursday, I set up some ads and started running those. So I felt I was quite pleased with myself for that. I was then able to post on social media, on Instagram for those. And it felt like by the end of Thursday, I had closed the loop on the KDP project for now. So that the products that I've made are up and running and are being marketed. Obviously, I'll need to do a bit more over time on the promotion of those, but it feels like now that at least they're out there. So that leaves me with what my focus for next week will be. Naturally, I'm thinking now I've spent a week on the KP. Now I'm going to spend a week on the print on demand stuff. So doing pretty much the same thing as what I've done this week, because I have a lot of products that I have made for the print on demand, but they're just sitting there. They're not being marketed to anyone. So I need to push those out to Amazon. They might take some time to be approved. And then again, I need to run some ads on those as well. I think it'll be too late to get those out for Christmas. But for me, it's a case of, like I said, closing the loop so that people can buy them if they want to, rather than just sitting in obscurity on the internet somewhere. Um, So that should be my main focus for next week. However, I did mention I felt a bit of anxiety and fear this week, waking up early in the morning, not being able to get back to sleep again. And again, I had a little think about what's going on here. And I think that what with the run up to Christmas, obviously I've been doing Christmas shopping and spending lots of money on presents and things like that. And this will be the first month where there will be no paycheck from a day job coming in. So the reality of starting this challenge of setting up some businesses and being freelance really registered, I'm going to be eating into that pot of money that I saved to do this challenge. And it really made me think about how much time I should be spending on building up the KDP and the print on demand businesses versus leveraging what what I've already got or what I've already built up in terms of experience of the freelancing from places like LinkedIn. Because I think obviously with a sort of quick freelance job, it's going to earn me more money in a shorter space of time than it will to get those to the KDP and the print on demand businesses up to a point where they're earning similar amount of money. So I previously thought to myself that focus on businesses and then I would work on building up funnels for the freelancing. But as I mentioned, that anxiety and fear made me think maybe I should really focus on having a presence on LinkedIn in terms of just switching from my previous job to just, I haven't touched my profile for a long time. So I need to maybe just go on to LinkedIn and just say, I am freelance now. I'm available for X, Y, and Z, just so that all the opportunities where I can earn money, that people know about it. And I think that would probably reduce some of the fear and anxiety that is obviously going on in the background. But anyway, that has been the week so far. Obviously, at some point, I'll need to edit this and get that out. So, yeah, it's been an eventful week, but also, I think, productive one. And yeah, so soon I will be promoting this podcast on social media. You can look out for that when that's ready. But yeah, if you'd like to hear about what I get up to next week, then please subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the podcast, and I will see you next week. Cheers.